Hello, and welcome to the Humans of Growth podcast, where we talk about the stories and strategies behind business growth and development. I'm your host, Aly Hathcock, and on this episode, we are breaking down why human-first experiences are outperforming the digital landscape, how memory metrics are reshaping brand strategy, and why in-person connection is becoming the new competitive edge for modern marketers. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Emily Stutzman. Emily is the CEO of HappyLucky. Now, HappyLucky is not your average marketing agency. They're a creative agency that's built on the ethos of fear less, love more. Emily, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, Emily, I introduced the professional side of you a little bit, but tell me in a sentence or two, who are you as a human? What's bringing you joy right now?
Yeah, like you said, I'm Emily. I live in Portland, Oregon. I have a house right on the Willamette River because I love water and rivers. And so that's something that brings me joy. I walk my dogs every morning and evening along the Willamette River, and I love seeing it. And I love seeing the sunrise and sunset on the water. And that brings me a lot of joy every day.
Oh, I love it. So it sounds like you're pretty out in nature to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's right in the city, so I can still walk to New Seasons to get my groceries, but I can enjoy the water and nature every day.
Oh, I love that. So going back a handful of years ago, what made you decide to build your own agency?
Well, HappyLucky was founded in 2004 by a woman named Tony Smith. She's a personal hero of mine, and I worked for her for about 10 years. And during that time, she said that she'd like me to buy the agency from her at some point. And so she was saying the same thing to my business partner, Ben, and neither of us knew that she was telling both of us the same thing until one day she put us in a meeting together and said, listen, I've been talking to you both about buying the agency, and I think you'd be great business partners. Would you like to buy the agency from me? And we said yes. And so in 2020, we made it official, and we got an SBA loan, and we bought the company from her, and we've been full on in ownership ever since then. I don't think that it was ever my intention to start or own an advertising agency myself, but here I am, and now I'm in the driver's seat, and there's a lot that I've learned, and I don't know if I would recommend starting one from scratch, but certainly buying one that has some existing clients and processes is a good way to go, I think.
Okay, I love it. So from what I've seen from your website, social media, everywhere in between, you guys really emphasize the ideas of love and joy and human connection in marketing.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, I mean, I think that marketing and advertising at the base of it is all about humans, and the way to connect with your consumer is through authenticity. And because the more and more that you get to know consumers, the more and more you know that they can see right through any advertisement, because we're fed them since the time we're babies now. I mean, you look at a toddler and they know how to use an iPhone better than our parents. I mean, you see a boomer on an iPhone or on Facebook, and that is disturbing. So it's better, the way that kids use iPhones or use technology, and the way that they recognize being advertised to shows us that authenticity in advertising or connecting with brands is the most important. And so just even thinking about that and approaching the consumer as a human and approaching them in a way that we'd want to be approached with love, empathy, and joy is how we do it, and how we recommend that our clients do it, because we're thinking about them as a connection point, not just as a dollar, but as a long-term relationship a brand can have with a human, and that relationship can go beyond just like a millisecond swipe on social media to like I said, a long-term relationship that might be with them, or might be with their community, or might be with their children. I always think about when I was a kid, and like the first pair of basketball shoes I bought, and how I felt about those basketball shoes, and that relationship I built with that brand through the athletes that wore wore those shoes, and the storytelling that went alongside it, and how I felt about that brand, being from Oregon and watching that brand grow, and and it just means more than what they're telling you on social media. So it means more. The connection means more than just what an ad tells you. So that's why we think that there should be joy and empathy and love put into the work.
Yeah, when it comes to looking at marketing trends over the past couple years, what do you see in terms of human connection? Do you think we're moving that way as a whole when it comes to marketing, or do you still think it's like talking about human connection and joy and growth and the good side of life is still kind of an outlier and will stay that way for a while?
Well, we have talked about this a lot because there's, of course, everyone's scared of their jobs being replaced by AI, especially those who are in digital marketing. And we think of AI as an incredible tool with digital marketing, and we can get into that, but that's not really my specialty. My specialty is experiential marketing more than anything. And one thing that I think that brands should lean into is the connectiveness that you can have with consumers in real life engagement moments. Because like I said, you can see 100 ads a morning on your iPhone before you even get out of bed, and you're not going to remember any of them. But what you will remember is a connective moment you might have with a brand that's real life engagement. And so I think if brands try to rely solely on digital marketing, they'll be left in the dust. You have to find ways to engage with consumers where they're at, or in retail, or through activations, or even grassroots community events. Otherwise, how do you stand out? Because people are seeing hundreds of ads, and how do you even know if they're real? Because there's so much, there's so much now that you can't even tell what you're seeing. And I think that's frightening for people. And so sometimes even just being able to connect face to face with a human who's representing a brand means a lot. So that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. It's like when you think of marketing back in the early 90s, everything was in person. Like everything, marketing was very tactile. As technology evolved, everything became 100% digital. So like if you were the first person on Facebook or the first brand on Facebook, you're standing out. But now all these social channels are 100% saturated. And so the way to stand out is now to swing back in the opposite direction to what we were doing pre-2012-ish. Give or take, back to these, how do we create in real life experiences that people remember? Because I think you're right with AI. Like half of my job is AI at this point, and I see things on Facebook, on Instagram, and I'm like, I think that's an AI, but I'm not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. And I think we're swinging back to how do we know what's real anymore? And the only thing we know that's real is the human connection that happens in real life.
That's the only thing that you can tell is real. Mm-hmm. And sometimes our clients ask us, how do you prove that metric? And we're still trying to figure out the exact way to prove it, because we're so accustomed now to having these KPIs that are so clear, these digital KPIs where you say you had this many clicks and you had this many whatevers from your digital campaign. But we're trying to make a case for memory metrics over these vanity metrics, because there's just, you can get all these clicks, but what do they mean?
Right. When you're seeing 1,000 ads and people are clicking on 100 of them, what does it matter? And then I sit here and I think, and granted, I'm a marketer, so I want to see what ads look like. Sure. I will click on ads just to see what they look like, maybe take a screenshot. It goes into a folder that I'll never look at again, if I'm honest. But it's like, okay, that's a metric for some marketing agency out there of like, my ad is working. Mm-hmm. But is it really at this point?
Yeah.
And so you mentioned memory metrics. Mm-hmm. I'm curious as to what that's looked like, especially as, to some degree, brands need to be moving away from KPIs a little bit, which sounds wild to say as someone who loves spreadsheets, but how can we kind of swing the other direction into maybe like memory metrics? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, something that we are trying to talk about with the brands we work with, and I think this is hard for them to swallow is that they can't have this instant gratification of a result right away. A memory metric takes time. It takes time to build, just like a relationship. Yep. And so we're advising them to create moments of connection with their consumers, like I was talking about earlier, and not expect to right away say, we have this sale or we have this huge surge of brand love that looks like this on paper, but the build is slow. And of course, you can do gigantic events that have a certain number of consumers, and you can see that type of statistic. But a true memory metric might show up over a series of years. And that's how because a brand loyalist might take a couple of years to build. And that might mean interacting with them time and time again until they really trust you and you've built a relationship with them.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you bring up the idea of trust. And that is the one thing that we have a shortage of. Mm-hmm. And you look at how many touches does it take nowadays for someone to make a sale. Way back in the day, it was 7 to 12 touches. And that's the metric people still mention. It's the metric that brands will still bring up in conversation of like, it should only take 12 touches before somebody like buys whatever from us. It's like, it's now 30 to 50 to hundreds. And so brands have to some degree get away from that instant gratification. Like, I know our attention span is that of a goldfish. The delayed gratification, it's going to take more than that time frame for someone to buy from you.
Yeah, that's what we're facing right now. Is there's so much more competition too for the same product. I mean, we work a lot in shoes, and the amount of running shoe brands that are available now versus even like 10 or 20 years ago is like majorly multiplied. So how does a consumer decide? Everybody's saying the same thing, that their shoe makes you run faster, or their shoe makes you less tired, or I don't know, whatever. But who do you believe, and why do you believe them? And the only way that you can really make a decision for yourself is by interacting with a brand or trying the shoe on, and having a real experience and becoming a brand loyalist by engaging with the brand yourself. And really, it might not make you run faster. It might be that you want to represent that brand because it made you feel a way, and you want to represent that brand because you believe in that brand, because they engage with you in a way that made you feel special. And so it's interesting to think that you can just create a new product and put it on Instagram or wherever and buy a bunch of digital marketing and compete in a flooded market. And maybe you can for a while, but we're running out of room out there for the same thing. And so I'm just interested in what's going to happen in the next 10 years, because I think that brands can't continue to use the same tactics and think they can survive or compete.
No, and I think brand loyalty is changing, which is messy, because usually if you got a consumer when they were young, you get to keep them for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And you see stats coming out with Gen Z as they don't care about the brand anymore. And so you see all these big name consumer brands that are used to just having like, okay, we're the go-to product now. And it's not the case. And brands, I think, are getting a little bit scared of what do we do. And yes, you can run your lead generation ads and pick your thing that's short-term money in your pocket right here, right now. But how do we go back to basic marketing 101 that we learned in the 1940s, 1950s of how do we go create brand loyalty in a world where it's not freely given?
Right.
So with that, how do you go about creating that brand loyalty and through like in real life activations?
I think it depends on the brand, and I think it depends on the consumer. I mean, we do a lot of work for Adidas, and so they've always been really, really good about spending money and efforts on engaging directly with their community and pouring money into grassroots activation and into the next generation. And they have right now they're focused on finding ways to engage with Gen Alpha, and I admire and applaud those efforts because it's really tempting to spend a lot of money on media and hope that that will get their attention. But right now, for instance, we used to run a program for Adidas called the Women's Community, and it was focused in New York and LA, and it wasn't a huge reach, but it was a very directly focused reach, which was a group of women who were focused on fitness and well-being, and they were in between like 23 and 33 young professionals, and they were seeking out community because they were lonely, and they were having trouble finding people who were like-minded to gather with. And something that's really true about the current generation and the world right now, people are finding it hard to gather more frequently. People go to church less, or like less frequently in like bowling league, all the stuff that people used to gather for. People stay home and they're more isolated. And now people are going to the office less too. There's some more return to the office, but people were looking for community. And so we created this, in tandem with Adidas, we created this community where people were meeting sometimes 3 times a week. There were opportunities to either do a class together or have a dinner together, or have some kind of community engagement. And a lot of the same people were showing up, or they were bringing other people. And there were several hundred women that were in and out of this community in both LA and New York. And they really felt connected to the brand, but the brand was their friend and was a supporter of it, but it wasn't like the center of it. It was just there as a supporter. And so they had this major brand affinity without the brand screaming in their face, "Hey, it's Adidas, buy our product." But, before long, these people were all head to toe Adidas and are forever brand loyalists. And so it was a really beautiful way to weave into people's lives and offer them something they were looking for without screaming in their face that we're trying to sell something to them. I became a huge fan of it too, and was like, how do I get this in Portland? But anyway, so
you have a direct connection to Adidas, so you go poke them a little bit. Yeah. So with that, it sounds like a lot of it to some degree is subconscious. Like if you create community for people, especially in today's age, like they will come. And then now you have 100, 200, 1,000, however many brand ambassadors that are coming to you, not because they're getting free shoes or free t-shirts or 30% off coupons, but because you've actually given value to them and now they believe in you. So it gives you free UGC, free and micro influencers to then go and expand out. Are the KPIs there? Not necessarily. It's not trackable the way people expect, but it's working in a way that's unique and special and different.
And you're using some of the right words, though, in that were directly connected to this case and to another community that Adidas operates. And I know a lot of other brands do this too, that have footwear. Adidas has a running community called Adidas Runners, and it operates in New York and LA and some other cities too. And I'm surprised how effective this program is. But I think that, in New York alone, I can't remember how big the community is, but we were doing some programming with them over the last few years. And it was maybe like 2,000 people that were on the email list, and and people would show up for these group runs, and they were so excited to be a part of it. And they would come and spend money. They would meet at the store. They would spend money on product because, of course, like they want to be kitted out in Adidas. And then they would do exactly what you're saying. They would take tons of photos of themselves on the run. They're all in Adidas product. They're excited about being connected to the brand, and they were micro influencers for the brand without us asking them to do that, because they were excited that the brand was providing this opportunity for them. And it was so low lift, and from a cost perspective for the brand, they had to pay the leader of the run, but like that's pretty much all. And then they had this very engaged community in whatever city they wanted to set that up in, and Anyway, I don't know why more brands aren't doing that, but brands can get in their own way with bureaucracy, of course.
What did, for the lead up into these meetups, what did the marketing look like for in person, especially when you think of like shoe companies, they're mostly selling online in store. So what did like that local marketing look like?
For the local marketing to invite people to the runs, that's what you're asking? Well, I know that in New York, a lot of the invitation to be included in the run was done in store. So there was signage in store saying like, do you want to be a part of the run? I'm sure that they did some digital advertising to invite people to join in the run club. And then I'm trying to remember what else they did, but there was a pretty big community that grew over time, and a lot of it was word of mouth too.
Okay. So as we potentially see more brands pushing towards how do we build in-person local communities that are brand ambassadors, we're probably going to start to see a surge of brands saying we want community, but how do you know if they actually mean it?
How do we know if brands mean it?
Yeah, if they actually mean it. It's just like, are we doing this because we care about our people, and we care about people over profits, or is this really just a marketing ploy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it shows really quickly. I mean, if you're again back to consumers being smarter than we give them credit for. I mean, if you show up to something, you can tell very quickly if it's about sales or if it's about community, because right away you can tell if they're trying to force you to buy something or if they're offering you something. And I think that's what brands have to be really careful about. People don't want to come to a community event where they're like, thank you for coming. Also, please buy something from us. People want to come to something where they're like, thank you for coming. We're so glad you're here. Because you're here, we want to invite you into this community and offer you this, that, and the other to show our appreciation and to host you as a brand and to show you what it's like to be a part of this brand. And that's what folks are looking for. They don't want to be sold to.
I love it. So as the digital world accelerates, because it's more and more platforms are getting added, more and more people are posting on the platforms, what elements of the human experience do you think brands are overlooking right now?
What element of what experience?
What do you think that brands are overlooking right now?
I mean, I think every brand is different. It depends who they've got in the driver's seat. I do think that a lot of brands are just the quickest thing that brands cut is they cut the things that are expensive, which are events and activations. And so that's really easy to cut. Those budgets get cut. And I think that those...
Hey guys, real quick, this episode is sponsored by Parison Network. Parison Network is a matchmaking service that connects businesses to marketing agencies that will actually get you results. There's over 50,000 agencies in the United States alone, and picking the right one can feel, pretty impossible. Parison Network simplifies the entire process by doing all of the vetting for you. From the initial agency search to interviewing and vetting the top marketing agencies to getting proposals and helping you with the discovery call, Parison Network does it all. This way, you end up partnering with a marketing agency that actually delivers outcomes, not empty promises. If you're ready to stop wasting money on marketing that just doesn't work, visit ParisonNetwork.com and get your free agency search started today. That's ParisonNetwork.com, PERISSON network.com.
Consumer touch points are so important. And if I were a brand, which I'm not, I work for brands, I would invest in making sure that my store employees could even handle throwing or hosting events, and hire a caliber of employee in the stores or in retail that could host, so you don't have to make a huge investment in order to host a party. And I think that that's sometimes what's being left on the table is you're trying to go too big. You don't have to go big. You can just have a moment of engagement with people that's memorable without having to spend $500,000 on a gigantic brand activation,
Yep.
Something can be memorable that's much more approachable than that. And I know not everybody has a retail space, and so there's different ways to do that. I also think that there's a lot more opportunities for partnership between brands, but I think sometimes brands make it not approachable enough. And so I see like these marketers who are, mid-level marketers, and they're like, yeah, it would be super cool to work with Baggu, and then they're like, but wait, who do I call, or how do I do this? And then they just forget. They just are like, that's too hard, because there's not enough opportunity to make these connections and partnerships. And so instead they just leave it. And I mean, we were working in this last year with On Running, and we were doing this event series, and there was an amazing opportunity for a partnership with Vital Proteins, and Vital Proteins was willing to come in and put a huge amount of budget towards the events in order to participate with the events. But because we had people on the on-side who were unfamiliar with what to do with a large level sponsorship like that, and it just kind of it was just left. It was just dead on the table. There was no traction with it, and they didn't know how to handle that opportunity. And I think that I imagine that there are thousands of things like that happen every day because nobody knows how to handle it, and there's too many logistics that go involved or that are involved in those types of brand partnerships. And like use other people's money if you can to make your event bigger.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing with partnerships. I tell a lot of businesses, especially with startups, it's like, how can you leverage other people's audiences? The easiest ways to do a partnership, both of you, if you have overlapping audiences, now both of you grow.
Yes.
But I think the issue is because of capitalism and consumerism, companies get so siloed off within themselves that they are not thinking, hey, let me go partner with another brand who's not necessarily a direct competitor with us. And I don't think it's really to a large degree, it's not crossing the mind of the CMOs, the VPs of marketing, who are ultimately the ones making the decisions. And because we're so siloed off, it becomes very, very difficult for someone to extend a hand across the aisle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can use someone else's audience as leverage, it's just like right away you're opening up a whole new audience, and it's just such a great tool.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest ways to expand your audience without lining another millionaire's pockets.
Exactly.
Which I would love for clients to have to not spend as much money on Facebook, Instagram, and Zuckerberg. To put it nicely.
So, no, I love it.
I'm curious, what do you think, or what are some of the best brand experiences and activations that you've seen, whether with your clients or maybe outside of your client base? That are, and especially like ones that are small for people who are just starting to go back to like in-person events.
Yeah, let's see here. Well, let's see. I've seen a lot of cool ones over my time here. One thing I thought was really cool, I'll give a small example of something that we've done, and I think that it can be taken and you can take the idea and use it for your own product. But this is a very simple thing to do, but we were handing out t-shirts and slides at Coachella one time for Adidas. Okay. And what we did was we were pushing, Coachella is really, really hot. You might know that. Yeah. It's like over 100 degrees in the desert. It's dusty. And so we had these bicycles that had these super cooler ice cream coolers on the front that were like icy, frigid cold. And we put the t-shirts and the slides in there. So when we were handing them to people, they could take out their dusty, sweaty shirts and put on these ice cold shirts and slip onto these cool slides, which was smart. And, like that was a very cheap thing to do, but immediately the consumer was like, holy cow, this is so awesome. It feels good right away. Already I'm a billboard for the brand, and it's very memorable. And so, low lift financially, but smart idea.
Yep, and I think that's where the fun stuff in marketing comes in. Is like we didn't get into marketing to click buttons on target audiences within Facebook Ads Manager,
No.
or let me follow XYZ framework for copywriting. It's like, how do we do the fun, cool, exciting stuff that's creative that makes a brand memorable like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, there's hundreds of ways to do that type of thing, but I think that what you can think about is what is memorable for a consumer and fun. What's something that they want that's not trash? Because like there's a lot of a lot of small and entry level brands, I think, hand out a lot of trash, and nobody wants another, I don't know, pen or chapstick or whatever else they hand. Nobody wants that. So find something that's not trash to give them and spend money on getting something higher quality than whatever you can get on imprint.com or wherever people buy trash to hand out, and make the experience with the consumer something that feels like something they haven't had with another a brand they've interacted with. Something, one time I was walking on the High Line in New York, and this was in like 2016. It was years ago, maybe longer than, I don't know. Anyway, I was walking, and it was an evening, and there was this tree. It looked like a real tree, but it was a fake tree. But you could walk up to it, and it was filled with, I can never say it right, but Haribo, the gummy bears.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
And you could pick as many gummy bears from it as you wanted and just eat them, and it was so cool.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I loved it. And there were brand ambassadors around, but only just to be encouraging you to pick as many gummy bears from the tree as you wanted, just like it was fruit. And I was like, that's so cool. Anyway, it's amazing. It's so fun to be creative and invite brands in. And like that tree on the High Line was like 10 years ago. And I think about it all the time as like such a cool moment of interaction with that brand. Anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's a lot about thinking of like, how can I do something that my target audience wouldn't expect?
Mm-hmm.
How can I meet them where they're at? So like going back to the Coachella example, it's like, okay, I know my target audiences go to Coachella. How can they do not expect my brand to be there, most likely. So how can I be there? But then how can I take it a step further and either give them a moment of joy and or solve a pain point? So if you're giving somebody a cold t-shirt, they're going to be thrilled, and now they're not going to be wearing their stinky, sweaty t-shirt that they've been wearing for probably the past 3 days.
Right.
If we're honest about that situation. So it's like thinking of like, okay, where are my target audience at in their everyday life? What's something unexpected I can do that doesn't have to solve a massive pain point, doesn't have to be this massive experience, but bring them like a small 30 seconds, 1 minute of joy in a way that they would never expect from us.
Absolutely. You said it better than I could.
So looking back over the past couple of years that you've been doing brand activations, what's the one thing that you see brands that makes a brand activation memorable? If you had to narrow everything that you've seen down to like these top 3 things, what would they be?
Well, let's see here. I mean, I guess one thing, like I was just saying, and like you pointed out too, solving a problem for the consumer that they didn't know they have is always a really good idea. Having something interactive is always good too. I mean, one thing, there's a formula for brand activations too that work really well, which is like you got to have good food and you have to have drinks, and if you have a photo booth, like if you have those 3 things at most brand activations, like people will stop and interact. So if you have those 3 components, like people will stop, and so that's what you start with. And then the next thing you need is a piece of what else is interesting, and can we find a way to make this interactive and memorable beyond these like basic pieces. And so and it just depends on the brand and what you can do for them. With On Running, we were doing something that I thought was really cool and interesting and different too, which is there's so many running events for long distance runners, for marathoners and 10K runners and 5K runners, whatever. But there's not a lot of running events for sprinters, and people love sprinting. I don't, but people do. And so once they get out of high school or college, if they've been a sprinter, then what do they do and how do they compete? So On Running created this event called Squad Race, and Squad Race is a sprinting event, a relay event for sprinters. And so what we would do with Squad Race is we would go to a parking garage in a city, and we would take over this like iconic parking garage and create a relay course for a 4-person relay to do, a sprint, a competitive sprint relay in this, almost like an obstacle course, because this parking garage, against other teams, and the winning team would then be qualified to go to Miami for the finale race, which was very cool and engaging and different. Because there's again lots of events for long distance runners, but they found something that was missing, event for sprinters.
And I can run for 30 seconds. I'm not going to run for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest about that. It's like, I'll run for 30 seconds. I'm not going to run for 3 hours.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's perfect because it makes it accessible to sprinters, and then for the people who just want to have fun, it's like, I'll run for 30 seconds. Sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, Emily, any questions that you wish I had asked you but haven't?
Well, I wonder if you wonder anything about, if you're curious about the business, or if you're curious about what running this agency is like, or if you just want to know about working with brands or anything like that. So
on the brand side, if they are looking to do activations and they're looking for an agency, what do you normally see, whether it's your agency, other agencies that do brand activations? What is that relationship like? What should they be looking for? What should they be expecting?
Well, I love when we have a client who is creative and passionate and a great collaborator and wants to work with a brand partner like us, who likes to partner closely and get in the weeds together and really build something that's never been built. So if a brand chooses to work with us or with another creative agency like ours who does a lot of brand activations, what they can expect is to bring us a brief, or bring someone a brief that says, I want to solve this problem, or I want to go after this consumer. What do you think we should do? And I have this much money, or approximately this much money. What ideas you have? And then we'd come back with some cool ideas, and then they'd choose one. And then from there, we would produce it in whatever city or location that we choose. And that's what it would look like. And then from there, we'd have content that we create at that event that they can use. What we like is when we create content at an event where it's like real consumers, and then you can use for your marketing purposes, instead of like having to always have a staged photo shoot for all your advertising. But it's amazing when you can put your consumers in the actual product and they're wearing it at the event, and then you can use that photography for your marketing or advertising, instead of having to have a separate shoot. Because sometimes like that authenticity and excitement at an event can do just as well in photography or videography as a stage shoot. So, anyway, so you might get content from the event that then you can use on your social media or on your website. And that's what the process is like.
It's likely to some degree somewhat cheaper than also having to do a photo shoot as well.
Yeah.
Because you're not having to pay for UGC, you're not having to pay influencers, and those numbers can add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also doing, in that case, if you're seeding product to people at your event, they're wearing it at your event, you're taking photos of them. I mean, that's if it's a physical apparel or shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, or if you have an event that's like, let's say a pan or something, and then they're using your pan at the event, that's also very cool and important. And I think that one thing that you asked me earlier, what's one thing that brands don't do enough that they should be doing more, could be doing more, and that is also seating. I noticed 10 years ago, people did a lot more seating, and now seating is back, and we are doing so much seating for brands, and it's extremely effective. And I don't think you should only just seat influencers and celebrities, especially not celebrities, because they're not even going to open the box. I mean, maybe you have a relationship with them and you can seat them, but most people, unless you're like sitting there with them and you're like, you need to open this box and put this shirt on, they're not going to look at it. But if you do a very smart seating strategy, it's very effective. And so directly seating at events especially creates so many micro influencers for you. And then also you have this photography or videography you can use of people directly interacting with your event or with your product in an authentic way. And that's super powerful.
Yep, 100%. And like going back to I have a couple of friends who do UGC and they charge $500 per video. You get at the event 10 people who will do videos for you for free because you now just give them gear or pick your product. You now just got $5,000 worth of UGC for nothing.
Yeah.
On top of the event itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So pivoting and going to agency life a little bit, I saw the question and it just completely disappeared.
Agency life?
Yeah, so when it comes to agency life, what's the one thing that you wish brands knew?
Oh, I mean, I think they maybe know this, but sometimes they forget is that we're not robots and it takes a minute to get things ready for them. But, I've hired people. What's funny is I've hired people who have worked at brands and then they've come to work at HappyLucky after they've worked at brand side and they've been my client for years and then they've come to work here. And it's interesting. Every one of them, they're like, oh my gosh, this takes so much work. I didn't realize this thing, because they just thought it was like magic elves or something, like doing the thing. And so that's something I think that people learn. I also, one other thing that I wish that brands understood is that, everybody's human, so mistakes happen. And I do wish there was a little bit more of, yeah, totally, got it. Well, let's figure out a solution together instead of like the finger pointing that can come. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand it. Like everybody is answering to somebody. And so, as they say, shit rolls downhill. And so as the agency, it's always like, oh, well, this thing happened and people blame whoever's at the bottom of the hill. But, part of my job is to fix those problems, and I've gotten good at it after all these years, and I can always see it coming. So usually I can get in front of it now, but I do wish there was a little bit more grace. But, we're working with Fortune 500 companies, and so we just have to be the best of our game.
Yep, and I think that's a reminder for both brands and agencies that people are human. At the end of the day, it's like we are not robots, and I get myself into this bind all the time. It's like, okay, I think something should take 3 hours, and then it takes 3 days to get it done. And brands had the same expectation of like, okay, I sent something to you. I know you have 20 people on your team. Why is this not done in 24 hours? It's like, one, we have other clients, and two, things take longer than we realize.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you're doing like in-person stuff and planning events. Because I used to do a lot of event planning back in the day, and it takes sometimes longer than you would expect.
Sure does.
Awesome. Well, Emily, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If people want to connect with you further, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, they're welcome to email me at my email address is emily.stutzman@happylucky.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn at Emily Joy Stutzman, or they can find me on Instagram at Emily Joy Stutzman.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for everyone tuning in today, thank you for joining, and we will catch you on the next episode of Humans of Growth.